It's natural to ask why the Bigfoot didn't pounce on Turner in a few big bounds. After all, the unencumbered creature should have been able to catch Turner, who was dragging a bicycle along the path for almost half a mile as he fled. But it's common for witnesses who report being chased or followed by upright, hairy creatures to feel as although the creature didn't get them, it easily could have. In Turner's case, it seemed to me as if the chase, it seems to me, meaning the author, as if the chase was actually a long, territorial, bluff charge intended to scare Turner away, especially given the strange language-like sounds it made as it ran. Territorial creature, a creature that is semi-spiritual over
Yeah,
its
I just wanted
territory.
to give a comment on that. I had this missionary pastor to Cambodia. He's an American. He was on my podcast like a month ago. He told me this because he knows about Heiser, but he has experienced these things firsthand in Cambodia. There's like a lot of spiritual work because he has to deal with this different demonic beliefs, territorial beings, and stuff of that sort. And he told me, hey, you know, these fallen gods, they're territorial just like animals. So if when you invade as a Christian, when you invade their territory, they will fight back. And now we're just reading about this creature that, at least for this time being, took a form of a Bigfoot and is territorial. Just wanted to chase away. Once when he chased away the guy on a bike, and once when the civilization was about to
Just
come and
run.
other people, it just stopped and disappeared.
Yep. Much of what happened in Turner's encounter, in fact, is common in Bigfoot reports and also squares perfectly with our known laws of physics. Unusual bird calls, as in screeching owl, for instance, like the exotic sounding tweets Turner described in the beginning of his experience, are believed by many researchers to mean there are Sasquatch in the area. Really. I wonder, I would love to talk to him more, this Turner figure, and ask about his spiritual life and ask about his sexual life and like ask about his sin in his life and like just get deeper because there are correlations, I think, to some of these things. Okay. Most researchers presume they are made by the creatures as signals between one another, perhaps to warn that the humans are near. Turn is scary near pelting with rocks is another very common feature of many Bigfoot encounters. His observation that the creature was able to peg large stones with great finesse is well attested in the annals of Bigfoot lore. Turner's description of the Bigfoot both pitching rocks overhand and by thrusting them above his head with both hands strikes me as a very realistic detail. It makes his story unique since in most instances of rock pelting, people don't actually see the rocks being thrown. I agree, having witnessed this phenomenon firsthand in 2015. I agree, comma, having witnessed this phenomena firsthand in 2015 while on a Wisconsin trail where Bigfoot activity had been reported. A colleague was in the process of shaking a small tree in an effort to stir up activity when a rock hit him on the side of the head. Wow. I was looking in the general direction the missile had come from, but saw no trace of the perpetrator. And it was unlikely a human could have made that accurate throw from the brambly underbrush without me seeing him or her. The rock wasn't large, but hit my colleague hard enough that he received a mild concussion. Widespread, similar. Does that remind you of a certain other giant who got hit by a rock that killed him?
I've been thinking about that, but I didn't want to say. But actually, because it was your turn when we just began the episode, it was in one of your turns when you read about three rocks and being thrown. I was like, man, like this reminds me so much of the David and Goliath, but in the opposite
In the
way.
opposite, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of makes me wonder if the story told in the Bible was a polemic to a known issue in that era that we have lost through time, where it was a known issue that giants came with the rocks, with their powerful arms, throwing these rocks and killing people. And then, like the Hebrews who first heard the story of David, oh, God turned it upside down and got him with the rock, you know? Look, that's just me. There's no evidence of that, okay? I'm just saying, I wonder. I
No,
wonder.
but you're making an intellectual assumption or hypothesis because we know that sections of the Old Testament were written as polemics to
Yep.
the pagan narratives. So they're that's not problematic. It's just pointing the truth to Yahweh instead of pagan gods. So
That's
yeah,
what
there's
something he
no.
would do, something God would do. Like this is something David would do. They know what's up. Okay, all right. I mean, there was a lot of weird tribes running around in Canaan at that time period. I mean,
And a lot of the occult stuff, yeah,
yeah, there was a lot
because
of strange
that's
stuff
super
going
connected.
on.
Yeah.
This is why the conquest narratives happen. These aren't just regular humans. All right, there's some strange, weird tribes, really strange names running around, and we just get a glimpse of it. We just get a glimpse through the text. But people in that era, they knew what was up. They're scared of these things. Okay, all right. So where were we? Widespread similar reports have led to the suggestion by some that perhaps forest rock showers are the result of poltergeist activity rather than the act of a super athletic primate. But I think Turner's encounter shows that Bigfoots can and do throw rocks at people. Still doesn't tell us why they do it, but I'd suggest that the creature very much wanted Turner to leave its domain. I love it again with the territorial spirit.
I think it's just Bigfoot Olympics. They're just
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
competing.
I don't buy the poltergeist thing. Poltergeist. There's research to suggest poltergeist activity is actually telekinetic things happening from children. Actually,
I think these Bigfoot creatures, they're just competing who can hit a human person, harder and more precise. They're, writing points. They're competing. Maybe they even have apps for this
yeah,
competition.
yeah,
They
right,
just,
yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
maybe it's nothing personal. Maybe they just want to maybe they're just hunting us for fun. They don't need us. I don't know. Okay, my turn.
Yes.
Winking and blinking. Turner's description of the creature also sounds like that of a physically present natural animal. It certainly required a great deal of strength to hoist those flat rocks over its head and sail them at the spot where it thought Turner was sitting. The animal's appearance also hewed very closely to those reported in the thousands of Bigfoot sightings recorded around North America over the past 50 or 60 years, adding surprising but realistic details such as the color of the skin, where the hair lay parted after the creature's swim, and the glimpse Turner had of one ear. Its noticeable blinking and squinting, along with what seemed like transparent mirror reflecting from its eyes, was something I hadn't heard before. However, it makes sense though that if this creature was usually nocturnal, then it might have trouble seeing well in bright morning light. Yeah, these creatures are always night creatures. Or perhaps it was simply farsighted. Yeah, maybe it needs glasses like I do. The mirror reflective eyeballs are not so easy to explain, but I do have a theory based on other witness sightings and on a recent observation of my own. Many reports of nighttime encounters with Bigfoot have insisted that the creature's eyes glowed red. Yeah, maybe it's infrared, right? Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Often comparing them to the LED lights or lasers. That shouldn't happen since primate eyes are not normally equipped with the tapetum lucidum, a membrane behind the retina that allows the eyes of nocturnal creatures to reflect light and see better in the dark. Even though it's one sentence, I like this, medical evidence that is just helping the case that this is something spiritual. The eyes of animals that possess the membrane will shine brightly in the beam of a flashlight or headlights, but normally would not glow of their own accord in the absence of direct light. That's a good point. My speculative layman's idea is that perhaps Bigfoots have developed some kind of convergent eye structure that functions a bit differently from the standard tapetum lucidum so that it has the ability to super reflect even small amounts of light that appear as glowing red. But since Bigfoots have also been observed functioning well in daylight, this structure would have to be self adjusting. This is almost like Predator, like I'm starting to like it. Perhaps the creature Turner saw was still adapting from nighttime to day mode. Turner may have appeared like a blurry flash of light to the Bigfoot as it first tried to focus on the smooth-skinned human at close stage. Man, this is so like in the movie Predator. Like the predator cannot see you well until it just changes,
Yeah.
those modes of. That's so it's scary, but it's so cool.
Yep.
On the smooth-skinned human at close range, and then turn his whole head side to side to get a better look without the confusion of the eye membrane's glare. The observation of my own that I mentioned above refers not to the eye of a Bigfoot, but to the eye of my very human son. He had surgery for a detached retina a few years ago, followed recently by another operation for cataracts, a very common complication of retinal surgery. Since then, his eyes look like it has a mirror reflecting from inside it whenever the light catches it just right. Sometimes it looks red depending on the light that's hitting it, exactly as Turner described. The effect is due to an artificial lens implant with a special protective coating. Doug, I think this helps your case that it could be something artificial or army involved with some high tech. I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I'm just.
I have a different theory.
Yeah.
Let's finish this section
Yeah.
and I'll tell you my theory.
Yeah, the lens is a different part of the eye, of course. Than where the the tapetum lucidum should normally be found. But reflective membranes vary widely in structure between different classes of animals. Who's to say that over time Bigfoot hasn't developed its own peculiar version of light magnification suited to its hunting needs? Okay, I'm almost done, and then you can tell your theory. Whatever the explanation, this instance of a blinking, squinting Sasquatch brings me to a wonderful instance of synchronicity to close out this report. As I mentioned, Turner had started out that day aiming to find the grave of Alexander Robinson, or Cheche Pinque. Translated, that name means the squinter or blinking eye. Oh wow. Oh wow. This small detail brings a lot to the story. Okay, I'm
Yep.
almost done. Robinson was said to have had a facial tic, and just like the Sasquatch and Turner encountered, he was well known for constant squinting.
Maybe he saw Robinson. Maybe Robinson became an eternal creature, right? Okay.
Whew.
I like this is really well thought through. This section. I mean, it's very thought through. Very modern. I don't know what I think about having a spiritual creature evolve this thing, this ability. Um, there's a funny little passage in Scripture. Jesus says, "The eye is the lamp of the body." So if the eye is the lamp of the body, then you have light inside you, and you open the eye, and light comes out. The eye is the lamp of the body, and if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. Your light in you is darkness. How great is the darkness? In my book, Peace in Your House, I take that scripture and I make it about worldview, and it works. But I think what I have learned since I wrote that is that's probably not what Jesus had in mind. And from what I learned from Dr. Heiser is that, see, she's looking at this as very scientific in our modern view of eyes. Light comes in, but throughout human history, it's mostly been thought of that light actually comes out of your eyes when you open them. And if you have darkness in you and you look at someone, you're giving them the evil eye, and that's a curse that hits somebody. It's like a beam of light, of darkness. And you ever been in a room when you know someone is staring at you? You ever been in a room you know someone is glaring at you? You can feel it.
Yeah.
And you look around, who's glaring at me? And you make eye contact because there's power, there's light coming out of that person. There's something to that, okay? Just because we can dissect the eye and figure out how it works. No. Similarly, if someone is like, that cute girl across the room is looking at you and giving her the eyes, and you're like, someone's like, oh, hey, baby. It's like there is something to it. All right? Power comes out of your eyes. Maybe if these are spiritual creatures who are embodied, maybe the reason they see the red at night isn't because if it's infrared, but because there's redness in them. There's evil darkness in them. And when they're looking at you, you feel it and you see the red slits of their eyes. And in the daylight, maybe like the reason he saw the mirrors is he's peering like that's like he's peering into like a portal ish, right, to the spirit side, where the other realm, or the side by side. Maybe he's seeing through a window to the side by side or something. Look, it's just spiritual stuff, right? It's just weird. It's myths, mysteries, and majesties. I'm just throwing it out there. We should find that Dr. Heiser episode where he talks about the evil eye, and we should like link it, because that episode, I heard that after my Peace in Your House book, so I like have to rewrite that whole section. But because I'm like, oh, I got that part really wrong. But it's so interesting that that's what Jesus is talking about. He's drawing on the idea that something is coming out of you.
Yeah. So I think that the proverb, that it's not in the Bible, but it just said in life that your eyes are mirrors of your soul. I think that's perfectly true. And you can tell sometimes how some people have this. Yeah, you can see that their eyes are not okay. And I don't mean just being tired or sad. That's all of us. But I mean, if someone is going through something like addiction or the occult, they're different. You can see certain dimness, or I don't even know if dimness would be a word, but everyone understand what I mean. There's like lack of uh, clarity. Like your eyes are not like crystal clear. For some people say they have seductive eyes, and that's true. You can tell like their intention could be seen in their eyes. So yeah, I'm not going into some, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
conspiracies or whatnot, or like crazy stories. I'm just saying that behind everything that we're mentioning tonight, because there's so little mentioned in the scriptures, we're just analyzing this supposed true life stories from what we know, and if we can somehow compare, connect, and see and understand a little bit bigger. But again, most of these things are super creepy, super mysterious, but also super fun, at least for me.
You ever look at in the pre-photography era, when someone had a portrait done? I've been reading a biography of George Washington and looking at these portraits, and also of Alexander Hamilton, and I find these people really fascinating. But when these artists would draw them, and other people in the era, these artists are incredibly skilled, and they would draw their eyes, and sometimes their eyes, not just of these two people, but just different people in the era, their eyes would convey hope, sadness, guardedness. I mean, it's like, you're right. I mean, I think it was Shakespeare who said eyes are the windows to the soul, but it's like there is something, you can tell so much. And these people who would draw these portraits, they're unbelievable artists, that they can convey what they do. I mean, look at Mona Lisa. What is she being conveyed? Everyone looks at her eyes, right, to try to figure out what is being conveyed. But just look at look at portraits in the pre-modern era, and you can see the artist is trying to capture something, trying to say something about the person being drawn by how they draw the eyes. And it's super fascinating. And I'm not even sure modern artists can do that anymore. But all right, let's wrap this chapter up here. Twice blessed. Amazingly, this encounter may actually have been this is a weird way to say it. Twice blessed with seeing Bigfoot. This encounter may actually have been Turner's second brush with Bigfoot. The first one occurred in 1960, when he was 12, somewhere else in the Chicago area. It was in a forest reserve at Caldwell Woods, Turner told me, at 6380 West Devon Avenue. At that time, the park featured a gigantic toboggan run. Turner was there in the summer, however, playing softball with friends, when he had to jog to the nearby woods to retrieve a missed pitch. As I walked into the bushes, there was a figure like a gorilla, just sitting there in a yoga position. In 1960, guys, yoga wasn't a thing in the US in 1960. This was before the Beatles, right? The Beatles is what opened up the US to what we have now, which is basically, the United States is basically a Hindu country right now. Okay. A yoga position. Its hair was a dark reddish brown, and it was expressionless, just looking at me. I went back, asked a friend to take a look and see if he could see it too. He came. So why did he ask that? Because he's already known it's a spiritual thing. He came right back and said he saw the creature walking away. I have always thought how lucky it was to see this thing twice. Turner added that this creature had a more ape-like face that was more fully covered by hair than that of the creature at the Chechepenque Preserve. And he says that almost 5 decades later, he still thinks about those two creatures every day and dreams about them at night as well. I said he dreamed about it. Spiritual creatures, man, these aren't just animals, right? These are both spiritual, or maybe the same, probably different spiritual creatures. Very interesting about the yoga position.